All right, everyone. So some breaking news yesterday, and it was just a matter of time, but the Department of Justice has announced they arrested Kris Roglieri, the owner of Prime Capital Ventures. If you've been paying attention to our blog on Funder Intel, you've known about this case. If you haven't, I'll catch you up in a minute. I am Shane Mohabier, president and founder of Funder Intel. So Kris Roglieri is a loan broker, but he also owns several companies. Prime Capital Ventures was a lending company, even though they were supposed to be getting their funds from a hedge fund. Prime Commercial Lending, Finance Marketing Group, FUPME was another brand of his, NACLB, it was a convention, and probably a couple of other companies. And they've all now been disbanded, everyone, let go and so forth, because of the basically Ponzi scheme that he and Prime Capital were running. Now, no one else is mentioned in this criminal complaint, but I'm going to go through the criminal complaint, the press release, a couple other articles that have different details and updates to get you up to speed on this. Again, it was just a matter of time. We pretty much knew by, or I knew by the evidence laid out, the facts laid out in the initial bankruptcy filings or initial complaints, lawsuits, and so forth. We've covered a lot of it on our blog. The complaint is specifically saying the probable cause was from one of the last deals that Prime Capital made, and that was with a Minnesota company that is called 1800 Park Avenue, but it's here in this article. And we lay out the timeline. So if you want to see in our forum the timeline of events, it starts at the end of 2022. 2021, Prime Capital was formed. They started promising these lines of credit to clients for different purposes, real estate or inventory or big projects for millions of dollars. And they would collect what's called an interest credit account payment up front, kind of like a deposit. It was supposed to go towards the interest. So for this 1800 Park Avenue client that wanted almost $100 million, right, they were going to pay Prime Capital $5 million, even though Prime wanted 10 to 15 million, according to emails that were discovered by the FBI. And you'll see it here in the criminal complaint in a second. Right here. So they want a soft close, 10 million, preferably 12, or total requested 15. 1800 Park is actually finally mentioned here. They sent them $5 million, and they also felt enough, uncomfortable about it that they wanted to make sure that if the deal did not consummate, that the funds would be refundable. So this is late December now, and they end up, actually at the last second, the documents changed from Prime Capital to Prime Commercial. It was revised. And for whatever reason, 1800 Park still went through. They sent them the $5 million, wire transferred. And there were specific conditions about the transfer account, that nothing could be touched in there. It couldn't be, held for, creditors. It could be transferred to personal, like everything was in the contract. But within the next day, let's see, wire transfer 22nd. Yeah, also on the 22nd, Kris Roglieri immediately transfers money to his personal account. Actually, I say his personal account, but his account for Prime Commercial, but he's the only signatory, right? And then he starts making other transfers from that account. So he's transfers $2 million to a credit union account standing in the name of a Virginia company owned by an associate of individual A. When asked about it, he couldn't say if he was sure without looking at the records. He doesn't know where $2 million went. He's not sure about that. He's dealing with so many millions of dollars, he can't be sure without looking at the records from just December, January, of 2023 and 24 to whenever they had this hearing. So then comes more fun for Kris, he starts to do some other things. He transfers 34 grand to a personal account. He actually did pay off. So here's the Ponzi scheme part of this. He pays off $950,000 to a client that was for a real estate project in Saratoga County, basically meeting that obligation, right? So now you see that he does fulfill some sort of, deal with someone. And that's where it's like, all right, you're using money from these current clients to pay off previous clients. Classic Ponzi scheme, except for he only did that a couple of times, according to everything in the public sphere. Then December 26th, so he made the deal December 22nd. He starts transferring money immediately. On December 26th, he buys an 84 grand Rolex. Also that day, he pays for private jet services for a trip from him and his family to Anguilla. He pays $450,000 total to law firms that covered his bankruptcy proceedings, right? And actually, side note, in this hearing, he's no longer represented by the same attorney. He is now represented by a public defender. So, and if we go back to another part of this, part of some other articles, this one by the Times Union mentions that and we published a blog a couple of days ago that the bankruptcy court ruled that his Chapter 7 can liquidate in his bankruptcy proceedings now can be liquidated all his possessions, like everything remaining, last 3 cars, had like a dozen guns, high-end art, and then they even seized his remaining $100,000 in cash. So he's without money. He has kids. He's going through a divorce. So he's in a world of shit. Like it's tough going for him right now. He's being held in jail until Monday for another hearing. And I mean that's really the extent of it. He the part where he has really no valid excuse in my view, with the information that I've gathered, with all the court documents and evidence and everything that I've read, for like, where is the money? Why did he not continue to pay clients and continue to do deals? He blames, the only blame that I can see in the court documents where he mentioned something is the hedge fund, Barone Capital, that he was working with. He blames everything on them, and that all this will come out at some point in time, except for there is no criminal complaint against Barone Capital. They were mentioned in previous lawsuits. But if you were, let's just shorten this up, if you were dealing with a hedge fund in 2022, they were going to provide the funds for line of credit. You collect a deposit. Those funds are never sent to the client. Why are you going to ever work with them again? December 2022, right? So then you start doing it again in 2023. You're not going to work with the same hedge fund. If they're not paying millions of dollars for a line of credit, there's simply no way you're going to work with that hedge fund. So again, I could be missing something, innocent to proven guilty, all that jazz. But it really is mind-boggling how you can have no out. And the Ponzi scheme doesn't even start like with a bunch of clients and then he falls by the wayside somehow, just gets overwhelmed and greedy and all that. No, it's like from the beginning. I mean, there may have been some deals in 2022 that I don't know about that, aren't in the court records that were paid. There's one client that paid him $20 million. Prime Capital sent back $16 million of that. That $4 million difference is still missing. So there's some semblance of that. But it's like 2 times out of 15 or so cases that I can count, or maybe even a little bit less, between 10 and 15. So it's not like the Ponzi scheme was working well for a while and then he went off track. No, it was pretty much from the beginning, as far as I can tell. And there really is no excuse for it. And that's why these bankruptcy proceedings have gone so quickly. The FBI now is they were investigating since early February, so 3 months to get to a criminal charge of wire fraud, and just one charge so far. But there's more to this case, and we'll continue to stay on top of it. But I did want to put this video out to get everyone caught up. We publish blogs, we cover this case. It's important for me for putting this out in regards to the whole industry of commercial lending, alternative lending, business lending, all those kind of go under one umbrella now. When you look at how everything's categorized, fintech, it's really confusing. There was even an article the other day about the word fintech is almost meaningless because it can talk about crypto, it can talk about small business lender that is technology heavy or focused. Commercial lending, it covers everything now by the way of legislation, right? So it's not even just, vernacular used by everyone. It's in the legislation from different states. It's commercial finance disclosure laws. Those cover these different products. So everything is under commercial finance, and that's what these guys are doing. And you got to weed these people out. You never know who to trust anymore. Again, he will have his defense in court, but it ain't looking good. So with that, I'm going to end this. Thanks for watching, listening. This is Shane Mohabir, Funder Intel.